High FM, 101.9 megahertz of life.
Okay, I'm talking to Jonathan Feldstein right now. You know what, you guys can talk amongst yourselves. Jonathan Feldstein is the founder of Genesis 123 Foundation. Jonathan, it has been way too long, but I think I'm always saying that lately. How are you?
Today, honestly, I'm a little numb. The soldiers killed were from my son's unit, so it's a little closer to home than we would like. But it has been very long, and I'm glad to speak to you, and happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Is there a movie that you think all teenagers should be forced to watch?
Everyone should watch the movie Argo, because we need to remember the evil of the Islamic Republic from its origin and use that never to forget that they need to be defeated.
That is very, very powerful. And look at that. Hey? You didn't even need to take a moment to think about that. Let's talk about what is happening in Israel with the elections coming up. People are describing, or analysts are talking about the fact that it's one of the country's most consequential elections. I'm always skeptical about that, because I think we're always told that in every country. But this is different, because it is the first election since October 7th, and very, very a very significant one indeed. But apparently a lot of Israeli voters remain undecided. Tell us what is going on.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of the undecided comes from a sense of feelings just stuck. Is that a lot of people feel that we need to have change, but when you look at most of the current parties, at least those who are making the cut by way of the polls, and assuming you can trust the polls to be even moderately accurate, you're seeing more or less the same kind of a stalemate, which leads to the existing bloc, which is known as the coalition or the opposition, and there are a lot of people who are looking for something different. And as you said, it's the first election since October 7th. We're seeing a revival, not quite, I think, at the same level of the tension, the discord between Israelis that existed 3 years ago before the war began, and then unity, and then back to a bit of discord. Some of that certainly is enhanced by the elections. And now what we're seeing which is very interesting, and I can't wait to have it as part of my panel conversation this coming week on the 12th, is the emergence of not just one or two, but several political parties, some of them by people who have recycled their political lives from previous governments and previous parties to contend and try and peel off votes, which may make the difference. And we've been having this conversation with several panelists over the last 3 months on a monthly basis to try and get a sense of why. But even if that undecided vote is only a few percentage, which is what people are saying, that still, when we go to the polls on October 27th, can really shift 1 or 2 or 3 seats in the Knesset, and can ultimately be decisive in terms of who's going to be able to form a coalition and with whom.
There are a number of, there are so many, in fact, different issues at play. How big or how significant is the Haredi draft? I never know, looking at Israel from the outside in, if it is a media story, if it's as big a story as we told it needs to be. Give me your sense of how big a factor this is.
It's a very big factor. It was a factor before October 7th, and it's a factor on steroids today.
So it's genuine.
Oh, indeed. But my son and his unit in Lebanon, and these young men who were killed, are reservists, and they are. My son is in his 4th call up. I don't even know how many hundreds of days he's been in, and there's a sense, even for the national religious parties, which most of my family voted for last time. There's a sense of betrayal by them because they sit in a government which is allowing 15% of the population to be exempt from military service. And in addition to that, I think, and this will be also an interesting topic, anyone who's interested in joining the
Yes,
conversation,
I'm going
please
to
connect.
get. I'm going to get to
Okay, well,
that because I definitely
fine.
want to give people that option.
So,
So if I forget, just remind me towards the end of the
okay.
conversation. But I will get to
But
it.
I just wanted to add one of the interesting
Yeah.
things that's being mentioned now by a lot of the parties is they won't make a coalition with non-Zionist elements, and definitely that means the Arab political parties, though that may shift because of some transformation that's happening with one of them, but it's also shorthand these days for the ultra-Orthodox parties, for the Haredi parties. So you have mainstream Zionist Jewish people saying, I won't form a government either with Arabs or with ultra-Orthodox. And those are not things that you heard previously
Well, that's what I wanted to
in
ask you,
governments.
because is this the first time we're seeing this? Because we had, as far as I always understood, religious and non-religious. But you didn't have this additional split to the extent that we do now between ultra-Orthodox and the religious Zionists, and that seems to be much more of a factor now.
It was always under the surface,
Right.
and today I think it's unavoidably and irreparably boiling over. And I'll be fascinated just using my own family as an example. I'm the only one in the last election who did not vote for one of the two religious nationalist parties, and everyone else did. And I see, for instance, my sons and my sons-in-law. By the way, we have an engagement. I have a new son-in-law as of November, and to see
Fantastic, Mazel tov. Yeah.
thank you, who they choose to vote for, because they and my daughters and daughter-in-law are and my wife are all bearing the burden of an undue burden that's not shared. Now, we there's a lot that needs to be done to make that work. It's not just a political talking point, but it's a very serious issue, and I believe, matter of fact, one of the ultra-Orthodox parties, one of the new parties, is a spin-off by the former head of Shas, who was sidelined by Shas, one of the ultra-Orthodox parties, and he may be forming a political party, it seems, in order to engage the ultra-Orthodox in military service.
Oh, wow.
So that
That's
can have a profound change.
I've also noticed, and it's purely anecdotal, I can't tell you what the numbers look like, but I've noticed a lot of traditional, irreligious, left-wing, Tel Aviv type people shifting, still non-religious, but shifting more to the right. It's almost because of October 7th, everything following October 7th, the wars in Iran, that they've moved more right. Is that a factor?
Absolutely. The only party that, everyone likes to throw out political rhetoric and say, oh, they're leftist and they're fascist. The only party that's leftist, again, if you pull out the Arab parties, and I don't know if they're left or center or what they are, because they're more complicated, but there's only one party that's truly leftist, and they're not polling so high either. So we're certainly seeing a shift toward the center, and that means toward the right, and that's because of the war, and because people realize, even though we're a little bit beyond the 3-year anniversary of October 7th coming up, people realize that, as much as we all like to have peace, that's probably not so realistic, so why should we pretend?
All right, before I let you go, just tell me about this panel.
Yeah. So the panel, with the third conversation, it's called "What Are We Thinking?" is taking place this coming week on August 12th at 8 p.m. Israel time. For security reasons, we don't just put out a link, but if anyone wants to be in touch with me to get the information, to please be in touch through inspirationfromzion@gmail.com. or at our website, genesis123.co. And just send me the information. Tell me how great I was in the conversation with you today, Howard, and I will send them the link where they can register.
Absolutely. Otherwise, just send it to me, send it to us, 061 895 1019, and we will pass that on to Jonathan, and he'll make sure that you are registered. It certainly sounds like an incredibly interesting conversation. So if you do want to tune into that, it's at 7 p.m. I think it's on the 12th. If you are in South African time, the 12th of August, if you're interested in that, send it to me. Send me your details, and I will just pass that on to Jonathan.